Good morning to you. Welcome to Breakfast with Charlie State and Louise Minchin.
Our headlines today. Tiger Woods undergoes surgery after a car crash in Los Angeles. He suffered multiple leg injuries and had to be freed from the wreckage.
Summer schools and extra tuition to help pupils in England catch up with lessons lost to COVID.
Thousands of women are being offered DIY home smear tests to check for early warnings of cervical cancer.
It is advantage Chelsea in the Champions League. A brilliant overhead kick from Olivier Giroud gets them a crucial win over Atletico Madrid.
Good morning. There's been some heavy overnight rain across parts of the north and west of the UK. More to come through the course of today, but the winds easing a little bit, drier and brighter in the southeast. And here we could see temperatures as high as 15, 16, possibly even 17 degrees. I'll have more later in the programme.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, February the 24th. Our top story. Tiger Woods has been undergoing surgery after suffering multiple leg injuries in a car crash in Los Angeles.
He had to be freed from the wreckage by firefighters and the paramedics, but he was said to be alive and conscious at the scene. Our West Coast correspondent Sophie Long has this report from Los Angeles.
Is anyone trapped in the vehicle or is the vehicle on fire?
No. The emergency call came just after 7 on Tuesday morning. The Gulf legend's SUV had been travelling at speed before it flipped and rolled multiple times, sustaining extensive damage.
No skid marks, no braking. So apparently the first contact was with the center median, and from there then crossed into the opposing lane of traffic, hit the curb, hit a tree, and there was several rollovers during that process.
The sporting icon was pulled from the wreckage, conscious and, authorities say, lucky to be alive.
I made contact with him and I ensured that he was able to speak to me. At that time, he seemed that as though he was still calm and lucid.
News of the accident sent shockwaves through the world of sport and beyond.
I'm sick to my stomach. You know, it hurts to see one of your, now my closest friends, you know, get in an accident. And man, I just hope he's all right.
Tiger Woods has inspired generations.
I'm Tiger Woods.
I'm Tiger Woods.
I am Tiger Woods.
His story, one of the most compelling in the history of professional golf. A cultural icon who has overcome huge challenges in his professional and personal life. He reached the peak of his comeback just 2 years ago when he triumphed at Augusta. A 5th Masters victory that reverberated way beyond sport.
His injuries, while serious, are now not thought to be life-threatening. They could be career-threatening, though, for the legendary golfer who was already recuperating from his 5th back surgery. Recovery now could be the greatest challenge he's ever faced. Sophie Long, BBC News, Los Angeles.
Well, let's get more now from our North America correspondent, David Willis, who's in Los Angeles. David, has any more information emerged about just what happened and the latest on his condition?
Well, Charlie, let me bring you bang up to date, because in the last few minutes, via his Twitter feed, Tiger Woods has released a statement, and it includes words from the doctor who's been treating him in Los Angeles overnight. And it says that he is currently awake and recovering, and thanks people for their support. He says that this is the doctor now, a long surgical procedure on Tiger Woods' lower right leg and ankle was undertaken. He suffered significant orthopedic injuries to his right lower extremity that were treated during emergency surgery. And the statement from the doctor goes on to say that a rod was inserted into the tibia, and additional injuries to the foot and ankle were stabilised with a combination of screws and pins. What this makes clear, I think, is that these were serious injuries which he sustained after his car, the SUV in which he was travelling, basically left the road and hit the curb, hit a tree, and then rolled over several times. It actually came to rest several hundred feet from the road, and Tiger Woods had to be cut from the wreckage by a fireman. He was pulled out through the shattered windscreen, and earlier today The Los Angeles Times reported that he'd suffered a shattered ankle and 2 leg fractures, one of them a compound fracture, all of which I suppose raises the question, what does this mean for his golfing career? This is a man who's undergone a lot of surgery in the past, of course, 4 knee surgeries, 5 back surgeries. And he's bounced back on every occasion after the most recent, one of the most recent surgeries. In 2017, he then bounced back to win the Masters 2 years later, Charlie.
David, thank you very much.
Secondary schools in England are set to receive funding to run summer schools. It's part of the government's plans to help children catch up after months of learning from home.
The Prime Minister has pledged an extra £400 million for extra lessons and tutoring schemes, but teaching unions are warning more investment is needed. Our education correspondent, Dan Johnson, has more.
When children get back into class, teachers have the delicate task of working out who's missed what and where extra support is needed. Many are wary of the pressure pupils will be under and the risk some could be discouraged by talk of catching up, lost learning and being left behind. But there's widespread recognition that homeschooling could never fully replace classroom teaching, so now there's more money to help get everyone back on track and make sure every child can reach their potential. The Department for Education's announced another £400 million across England, meaning £1.7 billion has been allocated since the start of the pandemic. There's £200 million for secondary schools to deliver face-to-face summer school activities, potentially focused on children moving up from primary school this year, and £18 million will support language development for the youngest children.
Our decimal number, let's go with 0.7 because you know...
Schools have flexibility in how they spend some of the rest, but the majority of it will go on one-to-one and small group tuition, targeted at the children who need it most. Some teaching unions say much more is required, and it's teachers who know best what their pupils need. Exactly how this help is delivered and whether it reaches the right children will be the key to determining the lasting impact on the lives of those who've come through the most difficult school year. Dan Johnson, BBC News.
More than 30,000 women in England are being offered do-it-at-home smear tests as part of a trial by the NHS.
Experts hope that the test could be a way to encourage more women to get screened for early warnings of cervical cancer. Our health correspondent Sophie Hutchinson reports.
Cervical cancer affects just over 3,000 women a year in the UK. Smear tests save lives by spotting the early signs and detecting the human papillomavirus, the biggest cause of the disease. But many women don't get tested. Grace says she missed her smear because she was just too busy and only went after a friend begged her to go. She was shocked to discover she had severe abnormal cell changes.
It was quite scary, especially because I didn't really know that much about it. But I'm just so thankful that I went when I did. It could have been different if I'd left it, you know, even 6 months.
To help women get tested, the NHS in England is now trialling home smear kits. They'll be offered to more than 31,000 women aged 25 to 64 who are 15 months overdue for a check. The trial's taking place in North London, which has one of the lowest uptakes of cervical screening. But the pandemic has significantly worsened the situation across the country, with 600,000 smear tests failing to go ahead in April and May last year, an increase of more than a third on the annual backlog.
It is concerning because cervical screening is the best protection against developing cervical cancers. But studies such as this one is fantastic as well because it is offering, even though it is just in London, it is offering those people who are overdue and a sort of a different, easier way potentially to access screening right now.
Campaigners say the home smear kits should be rolled out across the country as quickly as possible if the trial is found to be safe, so that all women at risk of cervical cancer can be protected. Sophie Hutchinson, BBC News.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.